What's going on, everybody? It's Levi from Wall Street Survivor, and today we're asking the question, should short selling be illegal? Now, short selling has gotten a ton of attention, especially in the past week with the entire GameStop, AMC, Wall Street Bets, Robinhood controversy. I'm sure you've seen some of the news coverage, and if you haven't, watch the previous two videos I made on this channel to understand a little bit more about that situation. But today, we're talking specifically about the legality and ethics of short selling. A lot of big voices are coming into the conversation, either pledging for or against short selling. Elon Musk with his army of 42 million Twitter followers, all screaming that shorting is a scam and you shouldn't be able to sell something that you don't own. Now, of course, all of these people, including Elon Musk, have a right to their opinion, but today we're going to be exploring why exactly short selling is legal, what purpose it serves to the broader market, and why it exists in the first place. So short selling is controversial for a couple reasons. One, primarily, is ethics, and that is something that throughout American history, which we'll get into a little bit later, the conversation has shifted multiple times throughout history. The reason that short sellers make money is because a company's stock price is declining. So for many, it doesn't seem entirely right that you should be able to profit off of somebody else losing their livelihood, their business, and their profits. And secondly, there's a significant amount of controversy around the mechanism of short selling. See, you can't just directly bet that a stock price is going to fall. The practice of short selling mechanically involves borrowing a share of a stock, then selling it and rebuying it back later, which causes a lot of concern for investors who don't think you should be able to sell something that you don't actually own. So let's talk a little bit about the history of short selling, why it is a practice in the first place, and then we'll talk about the larger implications of short selling and why it still exists to this day. The stock market was largely unregulated until the Great Depression. And in 1934, amidst the Great Depression, the government called for large-scale regulation of the stock market. The Securities and Exchange Commission was formed in 1934, and they were given sole discretion over whether to allow short selling or not. The public and lawmakers alike largely blamed short sellers for the massive decline of the US economy when the stock market crashed in 1929. So basically, the government just handed off the responsibility of regulating short sellers to this newly formed Securities and Exchange Commission, and it went from there. In 1937, the SEC passed a law which said that you could only short sell stocks if they were on an uptick. The rule was pretty vague, but basically it was intended so that you couldn't profit off of a stock that was already losing a bunch of money. The idea of short selling is intended to help regulate the prices of the market. So the Uptick Rule was established so that when the price of a stock shot up, people could help regulate that price by shorting it. Now, something I didn't know until literally today was that the Uptick Rule was in place until 2007. So for the vast majority of the stock market's history, you've only been able to short sell stocks which were trending up in price. In 2007, the SEC eliminated the Uptick Rule, making it easier for bearish investors to pile onto a stock's price that is already declining. Now, there's no conclusive evidence of this, but I find it funny that the Uptick Rule was eliminated in 2007 and the stock market saw its second biggest crash in history in 2008. In fact, one of the original rules that was established under the prerogatory of the SEC was that they could stop short selling at any time they want, and in 2008, during the financial crisis, the SEC actually eliminated the short selling of all banking stocks, which is pretty crazy and the first time that they had to exercise that right in history. After the financial crisis in 2008, arguments for both sides of the short selling coin were voiced heavily, but ultimately nothing really changed, and the Uptick Rule was never reestablished. Short sellers have basically been given free rein to short any stocks that they wanted, and the SEC has not regulated it en masse since then. Now you guys know a little bit about the history of short selling and why it's controversial, but really, what is the point of short selling? This is the part that gets a little iffy for people. Ultimately, the concept behind short selling, like I said a little bit earlier, is to help regulate the market. See, the stock market relies heavily on a concept called price discovery, which is that an investor has the right to consider a stock overvalued or undervalued based on the company's performance, fundamentals, or where they see the stock going in the future. If there was only a mechanism for investors to profit off the growth of a company, then it would definitely create an imbalance in the market. And if a stock was overvalued, there would be no way to signal that to buyers and sellers. So in concept, short selling is a good thing because it allows for greater market efficiency and liquidity in the market. The problem, at least in my opinion, and take that with a grain of salt because I am certainly no economist and definitely not a financial advisor, but the problem for me is that the concept and the mechanism don't align. There is no way, like I said earlier, to directly bet against the price of a stock, and since it involves borrowing and selling a borrowed share, the mechanism just doesn't quite align with the concept, and the good intentions of the idea don't always align with how it plays out. But food for thought, should there be more regulation on short selling? And what do you guys think about the Uptick Rule? Should regulators put that back into effect? I think most people agree that there needs to be some sort of mechanism for signaling an overvalued stock, and even for there to be opportunities to profit off of a market's decline or even an individual stock. But maybe there needs to be new rules and new regulations instituted to stop market manipulators and people who just want to watch the world burn. Let me know what you think about the Uptick Rule in the comments, where you see the future of short selling going, and if things need to change. Thanks guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave this video a like and subscribe to the Wall Street Survivor channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.